Hello and welcome to today's video. Now today I'm outside St Mary's Church here in Norton. It's a beautiful church. If you've seen last week's video then you'll have seen all of this, but if you haven't, go and check that out after this one. But this video actually carries on from that previous one in regards to the history of Norton and the surrounding areas, Stockton, Billingham, Thornaby and Middlesbrough, and how it was affected on the 6th of July 1940. Now I did a little video and it's just been stuck on my hard drive waiting for a opportunity to present itself. So I thought, seeing as I've just done a Norton video, I'll bring it out so it's a history and how this place was affected by the Second World War. So check it out now.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
When war with Germany was declared on September 3rd, 1939, the nation readied itself for invasion. Roadblocks and barricades sprang up in towns and cities, with military personnel guarding strategic sites. Barrage balloons began to appear in the skies, and the sound of air raid sirens being tested became a familiar, if alarming, part of daily life. Communal air raid shelters started to appear. Households were issued with the materials to build their own Anderson shelters. And plans were made for the evacuation of thousands of school children from the cities to the countryside as the nation prepared for the worst. With its shipyards, coalfields and factories all engaged in the war effort, the industrial northeast became an obvious target for the Luftwaffe.
This country is at war with Germany.
The first recorded raid on what is now Stockton was on the night of June 6, 1940, when a German raider dropped bombs onto the Thornaby aerodrome. A number of service personnel were injured, and one died during this raid. 2 aircraft and 2 fuel bowsers destroyed, and the runway itself was damaged. On June 8, 1940, 2 nights later, a German raider dropped stick bombs around the perimeter, causing little damage. On the night of June 19, 1940, just after 11 a.m., the air raid sirens were sounded for the first major raid on the area. The raid lasted more than 3 hours and involved over 100 enemy aircraft. At Billingham, the ICI factories were bombed and 2 soldiers died. Water and gas pipes were damaged, which caused major disruption. A high explosive was dropped on Cowpen Bewley Road, causing some slight damage to Haverton School. Another high explosive bomb landed at Billingham Bottoms, making a 20-foot crater and damaging one of Norton's oldest buildings, that being Norton Mill. Billingham ICI was the intended target. The Malleable Works in Dugdale Street in Stockton took direct hits on the tank shop and gas tanks. The stockyard was hit by 2 high explosive bombs, causing thousands of pounds worth of damage and disrupting steel production. Damage and casualties were fairly light on this raid, but that would change in the months to follow. At midnight on the 26th and 27th June 1940, we saw the next major raid by the Germans. This time, properties in Bilsdale Crescent, Cleveland Avenue, Haverton Hill, Lincoln Crescent and Cowpen Bewley would be damaged by the bombings. During this raid, Billingham ICI would also be hit by high explosive bombs, causing many fires. Thankfully, they were taken care of by ICI's own firefighters. One of the bombs hit a 33-inch water main in Bell Assist Lane, causing major disruption. Also during this raid, Anderston's foundry at Port Clarence and the transporter bridge was hit by the bombing. The Germans followed the line of the river, making the shipyards an easy target. On the 7th and 8th July 1940, the Furness shipyard was hit by 4 high-explosive bombs. Luckily, none of the ships being built were damaged, aside from a little shrapnel. Another raid on Billingham saw Salt Home Farm hit, resulting in the deaths of some livestock. Although there were still alerts being sounded, the next major raid wasn't for another month. On the nights of 24th and 25th of August 1940, the next big raid by the Germans was to descend onto Stockton. Billingham ICI was hit again, with great fires breaking out and damage to the water supply. The raids spread across, hitting different areas of Stockton, killing many of the residents. During the course of the raid, 65 shops and more than 100 houses were damaged, with gas pipes being ruptured. In the early hours of August 27, 1940, high-explosive bombs caused damage to houses and water supplies before the area being hit with days of silence. On the 3rd and 4th of September 1940, Haverton Hill was bombed, causing damage to St Vincent Street and Drake Street, with houses destroyed and having to be pulled down. On the same night, Bishopton Village was hit by 16 small bombs, with Downlands Farm and Callender's butcher shop suffering a direct hit. Other property was damaged in this raid, with the addition of unexploded bombs being scattered all around the area. After the raid on the September 4th, 1940, the bombing fell silent for now. Just before 6 a.m. on February 11th, 1941, the Germans performed another raid. Houses and shops in Newby Terrace and Port Clarence Road had their windows blown out, with one high-explosive bomb causing flooding in Clarence Street and the surrounding area. A number of houses nearby were damaged, with some having to be completely demolished. On the night of 15th and April 16th, 1941, 300 German aircraft crossed over the area, with most of them heading south to Manchester and Liverpool, but some dropped parachute mines at 5:30 a.m., causing serious damage and loss of life. On 6th and 7th May 1941, the Germans caused serious damage to the Davy and United Roll foundry at Haverton Hill when dropping a high-explosive bomb. The compressor house and plant were completely destroyed, although production was back to normal within 6 days. Another high-explosive bomb was dropped, damaging Pearl Street, Victoria Street, and part of King Edward Street, with residents having to be rehoused and their homes demolished. At midnight on 11th and 12th May 1941, 6 high-explosive bombs were dropped on the Yarm Road area of Stockton, causing a huge crater, but little damage to property. That night saw the first civilian deaths when a bomb demolished 2 houses in Grays Road, with another bomb just leaving a huge crater. The worst damage and casualties were caused when properties in Northcote Street, Denison Street and St Peter's Street being completely destroyed, killing the residents inside. 2 Billingham factories were bombed and 4 high-explosive bombs were targeted towards Corporation Depot in Thornaby, but they missed their target and landed in fields and mud. On August 15th, 1941, the only air raid of any consequence that was reported was that of Norton. 7 properties on Norton Avenue were seriously damaged. Sadly, all residents were killed in the raid. There were a number of raids that night, but none did any damage more than a crater. 18th and 19th August 1941 saw many properties severely damaged in Pine Street, Benson Street and Junction Road of Norton. October 5th, 1941 saw more properties damaged in T Street and Cowpen Bewley Road. On October 21st, 1941, a high-explosive bomb hits the Malleable Works, but caused little damage. The factory was making heavy bomb casings and anti-torpedo equipment at the time. For the next few months, Stockton wasn't targeted, although other regions and the country generally continued to suffer. Hitler instigated the Baedeker raids in retaliation to the damage inflicted on the town of Lübeck on the Baltic coast. Hitler had also ordered Hermann Goering to bomb all English cities with a 3-star rating, mainly for their cultural importance. This star rating was taken from the Baedeker Tourist Guidebook. From July 6, 1942, the raids returned with a vengeance, starting with attacks on Billingham ICI, causing serious damage and fires when oil tanks and highly flammable spirit was hit with a high explosive bomb and shrapnel. More than 1 million gallons of petrol were lost as a result of those raids. Damage to the surrounding area was enormous, with properties being damaged and destroyed, with the Synthonia Club taking a direct hit. Properties in Chiltern Avenue, Rawlinson Avenue, as well as Tibbersley, Windermere and the Green were also damaged. The raids continued to damage properties, schools and businesses, with more residents losing their lives. On the night of July 25, 1942, a raid on the ICI complex resulted in the damage and destruction of the fertilizer plant conveyor building, the nitric acid plant pump house, coal offloading plant and the pipe bridge. On August 3, 1942, residents witnessed an enemy dive bomber passing overhead with its guns firing as it made its way to Middlesbrough. The next raid was on the September 6, 1942, with casualties, and the closing of Haverton School after a bomb landed in the garden and didn't explode. The raids continued throughout autumn and winter with little damage or causalities. On March 11, 1943, the air raid sirens rang out to alert of the Luftwaffe. Their target was Thornaby. Foundries, factories and businesses were damaged, whereas properties in the area were completely obliterated. 541 houses were damaged, with 81 of them having to be demolished. There were injuries and casualties, and 550 people being made homeless. The raid continued into Stockton, with parachute mines being dropped on Yarm Lane, resulting in loss of life and houses being damaged and demolished. The last recorded raid was on May 22, 1943, when 10 houses were damaged by a high-explosive bomb, with 2 of them having to be later demolished. The records show that out of a population of 108,707, 41 civilians were killed and 180 being injured. At least 194 houses were destroyed, with many being damaged as well as shops, offices and factories. At least 106 high-explosive bombs fell on the borough over the 3 years of raids, with countless incendiary bombs and other devices being dropped. Back in 1940 till 1943, you would have seen enemy aircraft flying over this area, targeting Billingham ICI and the foundries and factories. An example of the defences of Stockton and the surrounding area can be seen here in this World War II lozenge-type pillbox. This style of pillbox was only found in the northeast of England. The pillbox has brick steps leading into the pillbox itself, and in its time would have been level. The pillbox has sunk into the marshland over time, but it is still accessible. Inside we can see thick concrete walls with a number of windows or embrasures situated on all sides of the pillbox. There are air holes in the ceiling, just small enough to not let grenades be dropped down into the pillbox. The wall that is seen here in the centre of the pillbox is known as an anti-ricochet wall, just another layer of protection on our servicemen. These pillboxes were designed for infantry armed with rifle and light machine guns. 176 examples of this type of pillbox remain extant. There are so many different styles and designs of pillbox, which can be seen here. Sadly, a lot of them are unsafe or in private land, but there are a few scattered around the United Kingdom that you can get close to, or even go inside to explore. If you are visiting a pillbox, please use caution when entering them, as some have been used for the wrong reasons and waste and rubbish may be laying around. If you are visiting one on private land, then always ask permission before setting foot on their property. There is a pillbox map of the United Kingdom, and that gives you a better idea of where they are and which ones you might access. If you haven't already watched Andy's other video on this subject, then go on his channel and look out for the anti-invasion defences video. He gets inside one of the Type 23 pillboxes to show you its size and a better understand of what our servicemen had to be in during tough times. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It helps get these videos out there and it's much appreciated.
So that was just a bit of history on the area that I live. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and let us know in the comments if you've got any story to tell regarding the Second World War in your area or this area itself. I'll be looking forward to reading those. And please consider subscribing. It helps me loads. It pushes my channel out there and it's much appreciated. Anyway, till next time, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.